You know that feeling, right? You're putting in the effort, maybe tracking things, hitting the gym, but the scale, it just isn't moving like you thought it would. It can be so, so
Oh,
frustrating.
absolutely. It really can. We tend to focus on the big things, diet, exercise, but sometimes progress gets stalled by habits we don't even really notice, sneaky ones.
Exactly. And that's what we're getting into today. We found this really great article, 15 Unexpected Habits That Make Weight Loss Harder Than It Needs to Be. It's by registered dietitians Jillian Kubala and Allison Harries.
And they've identified these, like, less obvious things that can kind of sabotage your efforts.
Yeah, and because they're RDs, their insights are, grounded in actual science. It's not just guesswork.
That's the key thing. They understand the why behind it.
Yeah.
Why these seemingly small things matter for weight management.
So if you're listening and thinking, yeah, that's me, I'm doing the right stuff but not seeing results, well, this deep dive is definitely for you. Our plan is to unpack these 15 habits, look at the reasons behind them, and hopefully give you some practical takeaways to make things, well, a bit smoother and less frustrating.
Sounds good. So where should we start? Maybe with how people often begin changing eating habits. The article mentions being overly restrictive.
Yes, that one's huge. Cutting out entire food groups or like all your favorite treats.
Right. And the article points out how that can actually backfire. Completely banning something.
Mm.
It makes you want it more sometimes.
Totally. It's like that psychological pushback. You tell yourself, no more cookies, ever, and suddenly all you can think about is cookies. The article even mentions research. Restrained eaters are actually more likely to overeat those forbidden foods later.
Exactly. It's not just about willpower failing. It creates intense cravings, this feeling of deprivation. It's just hard to maintain long term.
So a more balanced approach, maybe allowing things in moderation, is usually more sustainable.
Precisely. Now, what about the other side of the coin? Overexercising.
Right. Exercise is obviously crucial. The CDC has guidelines, moderate, vigorous activity, strength training.
Sure, standard advice.
But the article flags that going too hard can seriously ramp up your hunger levels.
Yeah, that's a big one. Your body burns a ton of energy with intense workouts, and naturally, it signals you to refuel. Big time.
And you might end up eating back more calories than you actually burn. Kind of defeats the purpose, right?
It can, yeah. The key, as the article suggests, is finding a routine that's sustainable, something you enjoy and can stick with without feeling like you need to raid the fridge afterwards. Maybe talk to a trainer to find that sweet spot.
Okay, another one that seems counterintuitive sometimes is skipping meals, especially breakfast.
The idea is often that you're saving calories, but
But it can lead to intense cravings later on, right? You get
right,
overly hungry.
that's the common pattern. Skipping meals can mess with your blood sugar, which then throws your hunger hormones, like ghrelin and leptin, out of whack. So when you finally do eat, you're maybe more likely to go for something quick, high calorie, maybe not the most nutritious choice.
Makes sense. Though the article does acknowledge intermittent fasting works for some people.
It does. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Yeah.
But for many, regular meals help keep those hormones and hunger cues more stable.
All right, let's shift gears a bit. What about those things that promise fast results, like fad diets?
Oh boy. Yeah, the article is pretty clear on those, often super restrictive, very low calorie.
And lots of complicated, maybe unnecessary rules.
Exactly, which just adds stress. And that stress itself isn't helpful. Plus, they're rarely sustainable. You lose weight fast, maybe, but then what?
Right. You can't live on cabbage soup forever.
Pretty much. It often fosters a weird relationship with food, too. The focus shifts from nourishment to just following rules. Sustainable weight loss is usually slower, steadier, built on a balanced plan you can actually live with.
That ties into the next one, actually. Relying on takeout. It's convenient, for sure.
So convenient, especially after a long day.
But the article points out those meals are often calorie bombs, higher calories, bigger portions than you'd probably make at home.
Yeah, and often loaded with extra fats, sugars, sodium to make them taste really good. You lose control over the ingredients and amounts.
So the suggestion is to try cooking at home more, even just a few meals a week.
Exactly. Start small. It gives you back that control over what you're actually eating.
Okay, let's talk about what we should be focusing on. Nutrients. Habit number 5 is not eating enough protein.
This is a really important one for satiety, that feeling of fullness.
How does that work exactly?
Well, protein digests more slowly than carbs, for example, and it triggers the release of hormones like GLP-1, CCK, PYY. These basically tell your brain, okay, we're good, stop eating now.
Gotcha. So more protein helps manage hunger, like Greek yogurt, fish, lentils, those kinds of things.
Yep, exactly. Incorporating those can make a big difference in feeling satisfied after meals and between them.
And along with protein, there's slacking on fiber. Habit 6, another fullness factor.
Absolutely. Fiber adds bulk, slows digestion, works alongside protein to keep you feeling full. Studies consistently show high-fiber diets help with weight management.
So things like beans, veggies, fruits, nuts, seeds, load up on those.
That's the idea. They're nutritional powerhouses, really, full of fiber and other good stuff.
Now, it's not just about food, is it? The article talks about lifestyle, too. Habit 7, sitting too much. The sedentary treep.
Yeah, the modern reality for many of us. Desk jobs, long commutes. It adds up.
And it directly impacts calorie expenditure, right? Less movement means fewer calories burned throughout the day.
Precisely. Even if you work out for an hour, sitting for the other 8, 9, 10 hours, it matters.
Yeah.
The article suggests simple things like setting timers to get up and walk around.
Or maybe a standing desk, if that's an option.
For sure. Or even those under-desk treadmills. Anything to break up long periods of sitting helps increase your overall energy burn.
And kind of related, habit 14 is specifically neglecting walking. Just simple walking.
It sounds basic, but it's so effective and accessible. No gym needed.
Right. The article even gives a rough estimate, like 1 calorie burned for every 20 steps.
Yeah, it adds up surprisingly fast. Increasing your daily step count, even by a couple thousand steps, contributes directly to creating that calorie deficit needed for weight loss. Maybe park further away, take the stairs.
Small changes, big impact potentially. Okay, what about those hidden calorie sources? Habit 9, drinking your calories.
Oof, this is a sneaky one. Alcohol, sugary sodas, energy drinks.
Even fancy coffee drinks.
Especially fancy coffee drinks. Some of those can have as many calories as a small meal, packed with sugar and fat, but they don't fill you up the same way food does.
So you just add calories without getting much satiety in return?
Exactly. Opting for water, unsweetened tea, black coffee, or maybe a simple latte instead of the Frappuccino Supreme, it can save hundreds of calories a day.
And then there's habit 15, eating while distracted, watching TV, scrolling on your phone. We're all guilty, I think.
Probably most of us, yeah. The problem is, when your brain's focused elsewhere, you're not really paying attention to your body's hunger and fullness cues.
So you might eat more than you need in that moment.
You might. And research suggests you might even eat more later in the day, too, because the meal wasn't as satisfying mentally.
Interesting. So putting the phone down, turning off the TV, being more mindful during meals could actually help regulate intake.
It really can. It helps you reconnect with those internal signals.
Okay, shifting again. Weight loss isn't just physical. The mental side is huge. Habit 11, being unrealistic with goals.
Wanting results yesterday, we get it. But setting yourself up for, say, losing 20 pounds in a month, it's often not realistic or healthy.
And potentially demotivating when it doesn't happen. The article mentions a steadier goal, like 1 to 2 pounds a week, 4 to 8 pounds a month.
Yeah, that's generally seen as more sustainable. Slower loss also gives your body time to adjust, maybe lessening some of those metabolic slowdowns that can happen with really rapid weight loss.
And related to mindset, habit 12, negative self-talk. Beating yourself up.
This is critical. That inner critic can be so harsh. I messed up again. I have no willpower.
And the research actually links that kind of self-criticism to feeling worse about your weight and being less successful.
It does. Whereas practicing self-kindness, self-compassion, acknowledging it's a tough process, forgiving slip-ups, that's associated with better long-term outcomes. Beating yourself up doesn't help. Supporting yourself does.
That makes a lot of sense. Then there's habit 13, not managing stress.
Stress, the modern condition. And it absolutely impacts eating habits.
How so?
Well, when you're stressed, your body releases cortisol. And cortisol can ramp up cravings, especially for high-fat, high-sugar, comfort foods.
A classic stress eating cycle.
Exactly. So finding healthy ways to manage stress, exercise, mindfulness, hobbies, whatever works for you, isn't just good for your mental health, it's good for managing weight too. Prioritizing self-care is key.
Okay, last one. Habit 10, refusing help. Being reluctant to reach out to professionals.
Yeah, trying to go it entirely alone. Sometimes you need support or expert guidance.
Like from a doctor or a registered dietitian.
Precisely. They can help figure out if there's anything underlying making weight loss harder, like thyroid issues, PCOS, things like that.
Things that need medical attention.
Right. And they can help create a personalized plan that actually works for your body and lifestyle, offering accountability and science-backed advice. There's no shame in asking for help.
Absolutely. So, wrapping this up. It really seems like success isn't always about the huge, drastic changes.
Often it's not. It's about becoming aware of these seemingly smaller, maybe unexpected habits that can collectively make a big difference. They can add up.
Understanding these pitfalls is like the first step to navigating around them, right?
Exactly. Awareness allows you to make conscious choices, maybe tweak things here and there for more effective and honestly more sustainable approach.
So, a final thought for everyone listening, thinking about these 15 habits we just went through. Which one or two maybe resonated the most with you? Which ones might be playing a role in your own journey?
hmm And building on that, what's one small manageable change you could potentially make, maybe even starting today, based on what we've talked about? Just
Yeah.
something to think about.